Season 7, AI and Government. Episode 1, How Governments Use AI Without Telling You. 1. Introduction, the most powerful eye you will never see. When people imagine government AI, they picture something obvious. Robots on the streets. Drones everywhere. A national AI control room. A futuristic surveillance state. But the most powerful government AI is not dramatic. It is quiet. It appears as forms, databases, risk scores, eligibility checks, watch lists, and automated decisions. It lives inside administrative systems. It shapes who gets help and who gets questioned, who gets fast access and who gets friction. And in many cases, you are not told clearly when AI is involved. Not because every government is hiding a secret plan, but because bureaucracy is built to move quietly. Because procurement happens behind the scenes. Because systems are framed as analytics or decision support. Because transparency is often treated as optional. This episode explains how governments use AI without telling you, where these systems appear, why they spread, how they change the citizen-state relationship, and what it means when power becomes automated. 2. Why governments love AI. Governments adopt AI for the same reason corporations do. Scale. A government serves millions of people. Applications, services, taxes, permits, policing, benefits, immigration, healthcare, education. Humans cannot review everything deeply. AI offers automation of routine processing, prediction to allocate resources, detection to flag anomalies, scoring to prioritize cases. These tools promise efficiency. And efficiency is politically attractive. Faster services, lower costs, reduced fraud. But there is another reason governments love AI. AI can expand control quietly. It can increase enforcement without hiring more staff. It can monitor populations with fewer humans. It can make decisions that feel technical rather than political. That is a form of power. 3. The first domain, benefits and social services. One of the most common government uses of AI is eligibility and benefits systems. Who qualifies for assistance? Who gets flagged for fraud? Who gets extra verification? Who gets denied? AI can be used to detect inconsistent application data, predict likelihood of fraud, prioritize audits, identify high-risk recipients. On paper, this reduces abuse. In reality, it can shift burdens onto the poor. Because benefit systems often serve vulnerable populations, any error has high human cost. If a wealthy person experiences friction, it is annoying. If a poor person experiences friction, it can be catastrophic. AI can turn social support into a risk-managed system where people must constantly prove they deserve help. This is governance through suspicion. 4. The fraud narrative, why it justifies expansion. Fraud prevention is the most powerful justification for government AI. Because fraud feels like theft. So governments can frame AI as protecting taxpayers. But fraud narratives can also exaggerate risk. They can justify aggressive monitoring. They can justify data sharing between agencies. They can justify automated denial. The result can be an environment where the default assumption is suspicion, especially toward people who need help. This is how AI can change the moral posture of the state. From support to policing. 5. The second domain, taxation and revenue collection. Governments also use AI to detect tax anomalies, unusual filings, suspicious deductions, patterns of evasion. AI can prioritize audits. This can increase revenue and reduce evasion. But it also increases surveillance. Because tax systems rely on data. Income data. Employment data. Banking data. Transaction records. When AI is applied, it can connect patterns more effectively. It can infer risk based on associations. It can expand scrutiny to networks rather than individuals. Tax enforcement becomes more predictive. And because tax systems are central, AI use here can create a model for broader government analytics. 6. The third domain, immigration and border control. Borders are already high surveillance environments. AI expands this. Facial recognition. Biometric matching. Risk scoring of travelers. Pattern analysis of applications. Automated flags for additional screening. The justification is security and efficiency. Speed up entry for low-risk travelers. Focus attention on high-risk travelers. But risk scoring at borders can be opaque. People may not know why they are flagged. They may not be able to appeal. In immigration decisions, errors can be life-altering. A denial can mean family separation. A delay can mean job loss. So AI here is high stakes. And because borders are often outside normal transparency norms, AI can spread with limited public debate. 7. The fourth domain, policing and public safety. Governments use AI in policing for predictive patrol allocation, license plate scanning, face identification in investigations, gunshot detection analytics, social media monitoring, risk scoring for repeat offenses. These tools are framed as making policing smarter, but they can also reinforce existing patterns. If police patrol certain neighborhoods more data is collected there. More data produces more predictions. More predictions justify more patrols. A feedback loop forms. AI can turn historical policing bias into automated policing patterns. This shifts the burden onto communities already under scrutiny. 8. The fifth domain, criminal justice and courts. AI is also used in the justice system. Risk assessment for bail. Sentencing guidance tools. Parole decisions. Probation monitoring. The system may be described as decision support, but in practice, human decision makers often defer to scores. Because scores feel objective. Because scores provide cover. Because disagreeing feels risky. This is one of the most profound shifts. Freedom and punishment can become influenced by statistical models. And because legal systems rely on legitimacy, the appearance of neutrality can mask moral choices. 9. The sixth domain, public health and resource allocation. Governments use AI in healthcare and public health to predict outbreaks, allocate resources, prioritize inspections, identify at-risk populations. This can improve outcomes, but it can also create new forms of surveillance. Health data is sensitive. If AI systems combine health data with other data sources, privacy risks expand. Also, prioritization systems can embed inequality. If resource allocation models assume certain groups are less likely to benefit, they may receive less attention. So even in beneficial domains, AI governance must be careful. Because prediction can become exclusion. 10. The seventh domain, education and child monitoring. Governments support education analytics systems. Attendance prediction. Dropout risk scoring. Student behavior monitoring. Performance forecasting. This is framed as early intervention. Help students before they fail. But risk scoring can stigmatize. Students labeled high risk may be treated differently. The label can follow them. Also, monitoring systems normalize surveillance early in life. A child learns that being watched is normal. That is a cultural shift. Education becomes a training ground for algorithmic governance. 11. Why you are not told, the language of administration. Government AI is often hidden in language. Automated eligibility verification, analytics enhancement, decision support tools, risk-based screening, fraud detection systems. These terms sound technical and boring. They avoid the emotional reaction that AI can trigger. So governments may use AI without branding it as AI. Sometimes intentionally. Sometimes because bureaucracy uses euphemisms. The effect is the same. Citizens are affected by automated decisions without clear notice. 12. Procurement and vendors, the private companies behind public power. Another reason AI use is hidden is that many systems come from vendors. Private companies build tools for agencies. Contracts may be confidential. System details may be proprietary. This creates a transparency problem. Public power is exercised through private technology. And private technology is often protected from scrutiny. So the citizen cannot easily examine the system that judges them. This is a structural shift. Government becomes dependent on private AI infrastructure. Accountability becomes harder. 13. The problem of automation bias. Automation bias means people tend to trust machine output. A risk score looks scientific. A dashboard looks authoritative. A model output looks neutral. So even when a system is meant to assist humans, it can dominate human judgment. A government worker under time pressure will rely on system recommendations. A police officer may treat a risk flag as truth. A judge may treat a risk score as objective. Automation bias turns decision support into decision authority. This is how AI becomes governance. 14. The appeal problem, when you cannot fight back. Government decisions often have appeal processes. But AI complicates appeals. If a model flagged you, what do you appeal? The data inputs may be unknown. The model logic may be opaque. The threshold may be secret. The vendor may claim trade secrets. The agency may not know how the system works in detail. This creates a deep accountability gap. People are punished by systems they cannot inspect. This undermines democratic legitimacy. Because a core promise of democracy is that power can be challenged. AI makes power harder to challenge. 15. The feedback loop problem, how government AI can create its own reality. Government AI can create feedback loops. If a welfare system flags a community as high risk, it audits more there. Audits produce more detected issues. Detected issues reinforce the belief that the community is risky. If policing systems direct patrols to certain areas, more incidents are recorded there. More incidents reinforce predictions. If immigration systems flag certain patterns, more scrutiny produces more denials. Denials produce data that justifies future scrutiny. AI does not simply observe. It shapes. And shaping creates new data. So the system can become self-reinforcing. This is dangerous in governance because it can lock in unequal treatment. 16. Why AI tends to expand government power. AI expands government power in three main ways. 1. It increases capacity without visible expansion. A state can monitor and decide more without hiring thousands of workers. 2. It increases preemptive governance. Prediction allows intervention before an event occurs. 3. It increases invisibility of decision logic. Systems can act without explaining the reasoning. This is a shift in the citizen-state relationship. Power becomes more continuous. Less visible. Harder to contest. 17. The risk of function creep. Function creep means the system built for one purpose expands. A database built for passports becomes a policing database. A system built for fraud detection becomes a general risk scoring tool. A system built for border efficiency becomes a watchlist network. Function creep happens because infrastructure is expensive. Once built, agencies want to reuse it. Also, political incentives encourage expansion. If a system exists, leaders may want to use it to appear tough on crime or fraud. So the scope grows. Citizens did not agree to the expanded use. But the system exists, so it becomes tempting. 18. Why transparency is not enough. Some people think the solution is simple. Tell citizens AI is being used. But transparency alone does not prevent harm. Even if citizens know, they may not have alternatives. They may not have real appeal rights. They may not have power to resist. So transparency must be paired with limits and accountability. The real issue is not awareness. It is governance. Who controls the systems? What objectives they encode? How errors are handled? Who bears the cost? 19. What accountable government I would require. A more accountable path would include clear public disclosure when AI affects decisions, independent audits for bias and error, high standards for evidence in criminal justice, strict limits on biometric surveillance, meaningful appeal processes with human review, access to your data and the reasoning behind decisions, vendor transparency requirements, limits on cross-agency data sharing, public reporting on outcomes, not just efficiency. Without these safeguards, AI will naturally drift toward enforcement and control, because those are the uses most valued by institutions. 20. Core takeaway. Governments use AI without telling you because AI is embedded inside administrative systems, often framed as analytics or decision support, and frequently provided by private vendors. These systems shape access to services, scrutiny by law enforcement, border decisions, and even liberty in courts. AI expands government power by making decision-making scalable, predictive, and less transparent. The question is not whether governments will use AI. They already do. The question is whether citizens will demand limits, transparency, and accountability before automated governance becomes the permanent structure of public life. If this episode helped you understand how governments use AI without telling you, like this video so more people can see it. Share it with someone who thinks government AI is only futuristic. And subscribe to Uncovering Facts for deep, hype-free explanations of technology, power, and the systems shaping modern life. Next episode, why AI regulation always comes late.